The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
His guess, as it is still a staggering 8 teams in the top 8 in the standings, all covered within 500 points. And of course, not every driver competing has done all the mandatory rounds, so that 500 point window will get smaller and smaller over the next few weeks, as Sam Blacklock currently leads Brett Loxton by just 48 points. But with Sam looking like a bit of a fish out of water in recent weeks, will the monstrous elevation changes and the old school layout of Brands Hatch help him protect his lead, or can KRF Motorsport superstar claw his way back into this fight? All we know for sure is that Brands Hatch, there's no tarmac runoff, there's no safer barrier. This is a classic British circuit where if you make a mistake, oh, believe me, you're gonna get punished. I'm your host, Bo Albert, and joining me tonight in the commentary booth, fresh from formal dance practice of all things, is Mr. Corey Ott, as we're live on the iRacing Esports Network and broadcasted by SimSpeed TV, directed, of course, by our favourite Kiwi, Scott Fountain. And Corey, I'll keep this simple. Brands Hatch and a V8 Supercar, it's a scary combination.
Exactly, it's sort of the, Brands Hatch is sort of the Bathurst, is their equivalent to Bathurst. There's no runoff area at all, but instead of walls, it's grass, and then there's good old Armco at the end, so tonight, it's going to be 32 laps of keep the car on the black stuff.
Yeah, it absolutely will. And one driver that's at the top of the timesheets in qualifying at the moment won't be topping the timesheets on his second lap as he goes right off into the grass. But Chris Coxhead, a name that's always been in the series, always run strong, but never taken a pole position. So right now, tied for pole position of all things, as Sam Sutton tries to knock him off on the second lap, coming across the start-finish line right about now, and he lowers it down to a stunning 24-7. So for Chris Coxhead, with that 1x on his second lap, he's not going to be able to get that pole position back, but regardless, a great qualifying lap from the Zuva Racing driver, as the top 3 currently is finished out by Brett Loxton, who is ahead of his championship rival Sam Blacklock, who's down in 7th and has not been quick in recent weeks, Corey. And the thing is that tonight we have a 4,000 strength of field, the highest we've seen all season, which means tonight points mean prizes.
Yeah, exactly. You've got what is around 50 points between Sam Blacklock and Brett Loxton, your two main championship protagonists here tonight, and then you've got a massive, nearly 400 to 500 point gap to third position. So it's all.
Yep, so Sam Blacklock has just gone to second place, so a good lap there to get himself back into the fight. There's still a few quick drivers who haven't set a lap yet, one of which is Kazuki Umeshima, the feisty Japanese driver who always puts on a stunning show and has even taken race wins here this season, so he knows what he's doing around this circuit as he finds his way going down Pilgrim's Drop, the massive elevation change before you go into the simply terrifying Hawthorne corner. You can see the commitment there, 160 kilometers an hour apex speed for the Radicals Online driver. A little bit different to what he's used to when it comes to the Formula 1 car, but nonetheless really wheeling the car out as he goes really wide at Westfield as well. And while he's not going to the Westfield supermarket by any means, he is in a hurry heading towards Sheen's corner now, using so much of the curb on the inside. You can tell he is a driver on a maximum attack qualifying lap. You can tell he is a driver who's trying to make a statement in this series. Even though he can't win the championship, he can still put a dent on Sam Blacklock's charge through Clark Curve as he makes his way now onto the power, right out to the grass on the exit. A 24-7 is the target lap time to beat. What will he be able to do as he runs for the stripe? And Kazuki Umeshima does not set a lap time at the moment. So Kazuki, he's going to have to do something special on this second lap. And there's always a lot of pressure on the second lap when you 1x your first lap, Corey.
Yeah, exactly. And also as well, the added pressure of it being that we've got so little time left. You might just make it to the end, but we've got about a minute 10 on the time at the moment. I don't know if you can get around it to finish off the lap, but a 24.778. It's the benchmark time at the moment set by Sam Sutton. Sam Blacklock has actually got up there 24.856. So Umeshima, if he wants to have a good chance at winning tonight's race and putting a dent in Blacklock's charge, he'll have to set a really good qualifying lap right now.
Yeah, he will, and the good news for him is the track isn't too hot. It's only sitting at 26 degrees centigrade, and we're not expecting any pit stops in this race because the fuel can make it all the way to the end. But that was a big moment there for Kazuki Umeshima through that corner just there, but the tyres will drop off quite a lot for 32 laps as he's really hanging it out. The Six Sideways sponsored car, well, he's definitely Six Sideways at the moment, doing some great promotional work as he makes his run to the Advan Bridge, sponsored by Yokohama. Definitely not Yokohama's on the car, very much Dunlop's, but this is going to be tight. He will make it to the stripe though. He will set the time. 15 seconds on the clock to make it through the final straight and a run to the line. The second lap's not always as quick, but a 25 flat, very respectable for a top 5 finish in what is once again the highest strength of field race we have seen all season long. So fantastic. That's your qualifying results, and we will get them up on screen now, and it's all going to be led away by a Sam 1-2, but it's Sam Sutton for TTL ahead of Sam for TTR. Chris Coxhead with a fantastic qualifying in third place with Brett Loxton and Kazuki Umeshima, your top 5. Luke Harvey will kick things off from the third row of the grid with Thomas Hinds and Ross Rizzo on the fourth row, with Carl Stokes and Riley Blythe, your top 10.
And then rounding out the rest of the field, 11th position will be Thomas McMillan, 12th will be Jamie McKnight, 13th Michael Cracknell, 14th Mitchell McLeod, 15th Brian Borg, 16th Guy Leach, 17th Andrew Welter, P18 Zach Baker, P19 Andrew Zakis, and P number 20 Greg Sharp, P21 will be Mario Velasquez, and rounding out your 22 car field here tonight, David Miller.
Yep, so 22 cars, so not the biggest grid we've seen, but I'm going to say one of the most talent-filled fields we have seen. So all these drivers have a shot at the win. They're all championship quality, but unfortunately there's only going to be one driver who's going to walk away with the race win at the end of 32 laps here at this circuit. And you said it in the intro, Corey, that 32 laps is not going to be easy around this circuit. There's so many grass patches you have to get so close to in braking zones, which if you just clip that just a little bit, you're going for a big spin and going to probably have a tire wall at the end of your journey as well. So this run into turn number 1, which is the infamous Paddock Hill Bend, a very fast right-hander plunging down multiple stories, then into the Druids Hairpin, which is one of the most amazing overtaking opportunities if you can make it happen. But that's going to be a very difficult thing to pull off because that is a big braking zone which just gets tighter and tighter. So for these drivers, if they're going to make a pass there, they've got to get the braking absolutely right. But right now, they're only thinking about the launch into turn number 1, which is just seconds away, approximately 8 seconds. And this is going to be one heck of a start as we get the revs rising now to get rounds number 8 of the Monday Night Official Series Championship underway. You can see the flames spitting from the car, but now the rubber's going down as well because we're underway for 32 laps here, and a lot of jostling in the mid-pack, already 3 wide for some cars, which is getting very, very close. But for our leaders, Sam Sutton looks to lead comfortably as Blacklock tries to make something happen on the outside. A big wiggle from Luke Harvey in the background as the ERT cars in the background are 3 wide. Blacklock trying to make something happen around the outside for the race with a big wiggle for Sam Sutton as well, but they get away with it. So do the mid-pack. It looks like so far everyone is getting through clean. Brett Loxton has survived the lap, but look at Sam Blacklock around the outside and covers it off as Mitch McLeod goes for a spin in the background. But a great job from Blacklock there to get the race win away, the race lead away from Sutton, who tries to fight him on the exit. Blacklock with a big batch of oversteer as well, but manages to hold on to it. But look at this, the 2 protagonists in Loxton and Blacklock, and then Sam Sutton trying to play spoiler, heading into the ultra fast right-hander, not where you want to make a pass, but they're fighting anyway. You can see in the background cars in the grass, and at the ERT car with a big moment, and I think that might have been Riley Blythe, Corey.
And exactly as well, but now Sam Sutton and Brett Locks are going side by side. Oh, they nearly had contact there. We're getting towards the end of the first lap here. Sam Blacklock streaking out to a lead at the moment. He'd love this. He'd want Sam Sutton to stay there for the rest of the 32 laps as they all come down into the last corner here. Loxton has a little look but can't get it done. Oh, a little bit sideways under braking. Through they come and down the bank straight away. Not even a straight, if I might add, to finish the first lap of the 32 lap event here tonight.
Yep, absolutely. And look at Kyle Stokes, who's under a lot of pressure from Michael Cracknell as they find their way into Paddock Hill Bend. And Cracknell, thinking about the outside, couldn't make it happen though. And you can just see the multiple lines you can take through that corner, and they're all jostling now as you make the big run into Druids. And there's the driver of Guy Leach trying to make something happen on the outside of Jamie McKnight. So a great move from Leach there if you could have pulled it off. Can't do it this time around, but that is one place where you can choose multiple lines to make something happen as McKnight goes for a bit too much exploration. Dora the Explorer in the Evolution Racing Team car, but it doesn't pay off, doesn't lose any spots as well though, so not the biggest issue in the world for him there, as our race leaders now start to make a bit of a margin. Blacklock trying to check out from the field as Sutton is just beginning to create a bit of a buffer between him and Blacklock, as Loxton is not finding a way past at the moment. And Corey, this circuit, there isn't a most amount of overtaking opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get out of that Indy circuit part of the course, you got the hairpin and all that. You come out of there and there's not really any more overtaking spots. The spot they are right here. You could set one up the inside if you're really desperate, but there's only 4, maybe 5 max overtaking spots. The rest, you know, single file racing all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. And Loxton on the grass there under brakes. That's not what you need to be doing. And he was just getting a little bit racy behind the TTL Esports Falcon. Wasn't able to make it happen though, and look at this, it's just creating a little bit of a train now, as Cox said, who's having some fantastic form here tonight. Not able to make anything happen because Loxton at the moment is off making sandcastles, which hurts his exit. And he was putting a lot of pressure on into turn number 1 at Paddock Hill Bend, but just wasn't able to carry the same speed because the air taken off the front splitter, and the car just wants to push wide a little bit, catching Loxton out through that incredibly fast corner as the lead out front up to 1.2 seconds. So Blacklock really applying the pressure at the moment as this train just gets longer and longer, and includes Sam Block's teammate in Luke Harvey, Kazuki Umeshima, and then only a little bit of a margin back to the Bathurst 1000 winner at the Supercars Online Premier Series in Los Rizzo. And this just shows the amount of drivers at the top of this field, Corey. This is a top class series once more.
Exactly, it's a top class series at what is a really committed track, Brands Hatch. It's not one of the most famous sort of circuits in the world, but if you put 600, Zach Baker, I believe, is gone around.
He's not quite gone around, but he's definitely making some sandcastles with contact with the 22 car of Andrew Zackerson. And Zackerson has definitely sent Baker off to the bakery, because that is not where the Ford Falcon wants to be, and loses a couple spots now, including to Greg Sharp, but a big moment on the exit for Baker there as well. So he's trying to recover, and with a little bit of gravel on the tires, it's never easy, but he looks to be back on his way, just with a little bit of a lockup as well. But for the most part, this field is relatively settled, but Luke Harvey is applying a fair bit of pressure to the back as Umeshima in the background goes off. But McMillan is another driver we're hearing that's involved in a scrap as he's trying to find his way past his teammate of all people. And well, racing your teammates always a little bit difficult, Corey, because if you know you're quicker, you want to get past, but if you're not in the same radio channel, you've got to make sure the move is clean.
Yeah, exactly. And also as well, Hinsey is having always one of the cars. Crackle has a little bit of a moment out of the corner, but Hins is having a bit of a troublesome season at the moment in the V8 Supercars. But I think if you're McMillan, you'd see if you have enough pace to get him nice and cleanly, and then overtake him and then strike on forward as they all come through this part. So as you said, we were talking about before, single file this whole section of the course until that second last corner where you could very desperately send one up the inside.
Yeah, well, there's 32 laps, and on the 32nd of the laps, well, those drivers might just have to use a little bit of a bumper to make a move as the door. Oh, a huge moment from Thomas McMillan, who I've just noticed is rocking the Ford Falcon tonight. I don't think that's something we normally see. If memory serves me correct, normally a Holden driver, but nonetheless, he's holding on to that one, and that was a horrible pun. I apologize for that, but nonetheless, McMillan lucky to hold on to the car. And that is one of those moments, once again, where you can just dip the tire into the grass and all of a sudden it all goes wrong, and he cannot afford that. Get it? He's in a Ford. I'll stop making puns now, Corey.
Yeah, exactly. And also as well, you forgot to say he was right out sideways and he left a couple of really good black marks on the circuit, but you don't really want that with your tires. We're on lap 5 at the moment out of 32 laps, so you do that more and more times, you lose your tires, and next thing you know, at lap 30, you might have done it all.
Yep, exactly. So he's going to keep on pressing, but Brett Loxton is doing a lot of pressing as well, and the pressing is all on the back bumper of Sam Sutton. He is not letting him get away, jerking to the level, just through the grass as well. Just trying to cut a few meters off the circuit as he goes down the inside, trying to make it happen, but this corner just too quick. You just cannot make a move. Heading into Hawthorne Bend, you can see there Sam Sutton running a little bit wide on the exit. Well, they're pretty much all doing a little bit of lawn mowing as they find their way into Westfield once more, and you can use the AstroTurf a little bit there. You can see Luke Harvey in the background using more than enough as he tries to get all the track width he can. But this back end of the circuit so difficult as they make their way into Stirlings now, and so many of these corners just iconic with the drivers they're named after. It's a very, very historic circuit, and one that actually held the British Grand Prix quite a while back. But Brett Loxton, well, he's not able to get too much of the Grand Prix action happening at the moment, not able to do what Ayrton Senna did, and I believe it was 1986, where he put the look on a massive pole position lap, is just not able to hook it up in the same way, and it's just allowing Sam Blacklock to just pull away 1.7 seconds at the moment. So for Loxton, if he wants to mount a charge in this race, he's got to find a way past soon, and he's very strong under brakes, it does look like it. But now the charge comes from Chris Coxhead behind, who's really been a star of this race already, Corey.
Yeah, exactly, and looking at lap times, you've got Blacklock up front. He did a 25.5 last time, Sutton 25.9, Loxton 25.8, and then Coxhead behind a 25.5. So at the moment, Sam is going to have a massive choo-choo train behind him before he knows it. Coming in, it's nearly going to become a 5-car train with Umeshima getting onto the back of this.
Yeah, well, Kazuki Umeshima has just about driven everything, but this V8 Supercar, he's only driven a little bit, but he has been incredibly successful in that short amount of time. But you're right, because Umeshima has now joined this train, is just about latched on now, and this is a pretty scary train as Umeshima just gets a little bit sideways heading through Westfield Bend. But Loxton just not able to make the ground that he needs, and this is a difficult choice because there's not exactly one pit stop in this race, so he doesn't exactly have the strategic element in his favor either. So for Brett Loxton, he has to try and force the issue somewhere and try and make a move very, very soon, because he cannot afford to let Blacklock get away anymore as the gap comes out by another 10th this time around. So Sam Blacklock with a 25.6 and Sam Sutton only a 25.7, so it's only 1/10 of a second we're talking about here. But in this championship, tenths of a second matter.
Exactly, and as you said before, there's no pit stop in this race whatsoever. So at the moment, the only strategic thing you have is tyres and when you use them and how you use them. And I think at the moment, Loxton might have the tyre disadvantage as Sam Sutton's just pulling a little tiny gap out at the moment. So they're all starting to spread out, find their own piece of real estate. Maybe cool those tyres down and give it all hell with 5 to go.
Well, that's what you have to do sometimes. Save your rubber for the end when the positions do matter, because you don't get any points for leading the race at lap number 7. You only get the points paid out at the end of lap 32. So that's a strategy you have to make sure you can make happen. As Ross Rizzo now making a little bit of a bid to join onto this train as well. He's broken away from the battling ASM duo of Thomas Hens and McMillan and have settled down a little bit. So like you say, Corey, there's pack is just beginning to spread a little bit, which is probably a good thing because this circuit is so dangerous. A car-to-car combat can really end up very bad very quickly, but one driver that's having to have a bit of a charge. He's down in an effective last position at the moment, but Mitch McLeod, he was involved in that first lap incident, and you can see his car's not looking very great because of it, but neither is Brian Borgs, and McLeod has just been closing little bit by little bit over the last few laps. And well, I say a little bit by little bit, it was 9/10 of a second last time around. So if we're going to see any driver make a pass in the next few laps, it might just be this talking car.
Yeah, exactly. His car, as he said, worse for wear, but it might not be affecting the way he's driving. Might be a little bit down on the lap times. He's around about a second off the leader's pace, and if you're a second off the leader's pace, yeah, good. But you know, at the end of the race, keep your tyres. You could catch back up. Even if you've got so much damage on the thing, it looks like a twisted piece of metal rather than a car. But, you know, we've still got so many laps left to go. We'll see what he does.
Yep, we will see indeed. We're seeing that he's not able to make a move happen at the moment, but Michael Cracknell just trying to make a move, whether it's to a new team or not. That's what we have to find out. But still running as a privateer, and they're running an old Shane Van Gisbergen livery, I believe. And well, Cracknell, I'll just give you a little bit of advice. It looks like you still have the Evolution Racing Team helmet on, so you might need to update that a little bit. But just behind him is the other ERT car of Jay McKnight. So old friends and foes for Michael Cracknell all around as he gets a little bit of a slide on as he tries to chase down Kyle Stokes, who currently holds 11th place. And he's recently joined Synergy Sim Racing and has had some very strong results, it has to be said, but probably not making the impact he would have liked in this race. Started inside the top 10 and has fallen outside but since, and just beginning to lose touch with Riley Blythe, who in front of him, also in an Evolution Racing Team car, has now found his way into the back of Thomas McMillan.
Yeah, Cracknell doesn't really have the races out at the moment, but I think at the moment Blythe might be really looking for a maybe little pack and send on McMillan. As actually, I think Blythe is usually in a Ford most these days, but now they've sort of the two cars have swapped places, so McMillan's in a Ford and Blythe's in a Holden, but I don't know if Blythe really want to be holding onto that car, as I have a really crap pun. But anyways, Blythe a little bit slidey out of the corner, but he might have a look here soon to try and get past that ASM car at McMillan.
Yep, well, I do know the Evolution Racing Team don't have the Ford painted in the Speed Cafe livery, so that's why Riley Blythe's in it, but he's making use of it at the moment. Definitely got a lot of speed in it. Probably not enough time to have a cafe right now as he looks up the inside very briefly at McMillan, but just not able to make anything happen. So we're not seeing too many passes in this race at the moment, just a lot of tic-tac-toe as the drivers try and strategize where they want to make a pass happen. Right now, Luke Harvey is strategizing where to get past Chris Coxhead, and he's in a pretty good position to do so because he's the closest he's been in quite a few laps, but just one little slip up from the Trans-Tasman Racing driver, and Kazuki Umashima just lurking in the background, ready to pounce at any moment to find his way past the veteran of the V8 Supercar who's been around for so long. And I'm not going to comment too much on his history because I've only been around for a little while, but of course very dominant when he was at Evolution Racing Team. That's when I first joined. That's when I know Luke Harvey, and he's one of those drivers that made an immediate impact. He's one of those drivers always up the front of the field, always having a crack, as McKnight has actually found his way past Michael Cracknell, I've noticed. And that's got to be a mistake for Cracknell. Indeed it is. Final corner, runs in a little bit too deep at a Clark curve and goes for a trip through the grass as well. So I thought that was a little bit of a weird pass because Cracknell was a fair way ahead of McKnight, but once again, just get a little bit too close to the grass when braking, Corey, and this circuit will bite.
Yeah, exactly. All you got to do is one little lapse of concentration and, well, you could find yourself a wall, or if you're very lucky, not get the wall but the grass. And, well, it's really starting to show. We're only...
Oh, Loxton up the inside into the Hawthorne corner. This is not what to make a pass. Massive moment in the end as a Sutton just slams the door in his face at 160 kilometers an hour apex speed. Very dangerous driving from Sutton and Loxton, as Loxton finally had an opportunity. He knew he had to take it, a very bold move, but just got the nose chopped off at the last second. So starting to get a little bit feisty for Loxton, not as calm as he once was, and that's not a criticism at all. I think this is what he needs to do, get a bit more punchy and try and find a way past, because the gap now 2.5 seconds to Blacklock, and well, Blacklock isn't looking entirely comfortable out front. I'm noticing he does have the odd little moment, so he's not all that confident as he once was in the V8 Supercar. So Loxton's still very much in with a chance of this race, as there's still 22 laps to go, and Sutton locks up into turn number 1 with the corner, just unloading the front right tire with a big elevation change. Loxton just able to close in a little bit more and have another shot if he wants to on this lap, but a bit of a slide through Druids isn't going to help him. But Coxhead still under pressure from Luke Harvey, who is just applying so much pressure on the back of the Zuva racing car, not letting him get away, but a bit of a moment through the AstroTurf on the exit cost him probably any chance heading into this next section of corners, which is probably the best place on this circuit, on the back half of the circuit at least, to make a move happen as you fire down Pilgrim's Drop, heading into Hawthorne. But none of these cars able to make a move on this lap around in particular, but maybe in the next few, Corey.
Yeah, exactly. And well, at the moment, yeah, just some of them are getting into that grass out of that corner. It doesn't really matter because, well, it all depends on where you get that wheel on the grass. Coxhead just begun a little bit too wide there to the corner. Doesn't really want that at the moment. He's got Luke Harvey right behind him. But now Lox has actually lost a little bit of time to Sutton through that section of corners. Don't really want that to happen if you want to get second place at the moment, but you'll charge on and hopefully get this move done in the next few laps as they come out of the last corner here to finish lap 11.
Yep, lap number 11, so it's going by pretty quickly at the moment, so this race is firing away, and of course we can still see a little bit of strategy, because let's not forget that the tyres will fall off during this race, and it will make a lot of cars struggle in the last few laps, as finally a few little technical issues on my end have been sorted, and we can now see exactly as Loxton with a huge moment out of Druid's hairpin, really struggling to put the power down. So he's still trying, and he's using every bit of this Dunlop rubber, and really making sure that he makes any little bit of pressure on the back of Sam Sutton noticed, as he makes his way now onto the back straight, but just onto the grass once again, not what he needs to do, and just hurts the exit all the way down. So for Brett Loxton, another opportunity lost, as he continues to try and make a charge for the second place in this race, but he has to be a little bit careful, because Chris Coxhead is a huge moment for Loxton once again, but Chris Coxhead really putting on a lot of pressure now. All of a sudden he's coming from behind, and he could be a chance to steal second place away from Sutton if he finds a way past Loxton.
Yeah, he's all he needs now is a little bit of moment there for Loxton out of that last corner. But now Coxhead has got a chance. Oh, Loxton looks like he might be starting to lose his rear tyres maybe, but very early for that to happen. So now Coxhead is closing in on Loxton. It could be a three-way fight for second place at the moment.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Loxton is hurting his rears quite a bit at the moment, because he's really been, as Riley Blythe makes his way past the driver of Thomas McMillan. So a great move there in the end, as he was looking to do that for a couple of laps, and he finally got it done. As McMillan not looking as comfortable, as he actually runs a little bit deep into turn number 1 as well, and a big compression at the end as well. They now fire into the Druid's hairpin, and you can see in the background another move happening as well, as that's the drive of Guy Leach up the inside of Michael Cracknell at Druids, late braking, and it's a hard move to do, and Cracknell went for the over-under, but Leachy, with all his experience, made sure the door was blocked. And Valentino Rossi, the doctor, well, Michael Cracknell might need a medic, because he is another spot down, and that is not what he needs to do, but immediately trying to get it back, but can't do anything about the Valentino Rossi car, as we go back up to this battle pack, including Stokes, McMillan, Blythe, and Thomas Hens, because Riley Blythe, a driver who's always on a charge, but he's on a charge in particular this circuit. We've already seen it's been difficult to make passes, but Riley Blythe always willing to throw in a little bit of danger, always willing to try something a little bit risky to make it happen, and already onto the back of Thomas Hens in the ASM Falcon. So great pace in the Evolution Racing team, Holden, as he makes his way into this very quick section of corners. The back end, as you rejoin the Indy circuit in just a few moments' time, exiting Sterling's under the Clearways Bridge in just a moment's time as well, before the final corner at Clark, which is where he made his move happen on McMillan. So he's got good pace on the back end of this circuit, but McMillan with a bit of a wiggle, not looking comfortable. So maybe, just maybe, Corey, all the cars are starting to suffer with rear tyres, and if that's the case, well, there's every chance we could see a pit stop happen in this race.
Yeah, exactly. Like, as you said before, we might not see one due to the fact it was a very cold track, but I think these guys are pushing it a little bit too hard for a cold track, and I think now if you were spotting or being the strategist for these guys, you might start thinking, should we go for tyres to get up positions?
Yeah, well, we could see that as we're on board at the moment with Kyle Stokes, and you can see there's just a little bit of a moment on the exit as he tries to fight his way back onto the back of McMillan, as this battle pack is one of the most intense on circuit at the moment, as they're trying to all close up on each other, and that's not an easy circuit to make happen, because of course you need to make sure that you get your exit right, your turn-in points right, and because it is so high speed as well, there's every chance that you can just go a little bit too quick and end up in quite a fair bit of trouble as well. So this circuit takes a lot out of the drivers, but at the moment it is the driver of Thomas Hinz who's able just to hold onto this battle pack as they all scramble at the moment to try and make something happen.
Yeah, all had a little bit of lock up for one of the cars in front there before. It might have been Blythe or Hinz, but you know, all three of them at the moment, Blythe, Hinz and McMillan, are all just sticking a bit together. They might be starting to catch up to Ross Rizzo in front of them as well in the Trick Sims 4 car. So as Blythe has a little look on the exit of the last corner, he's in the slipstream. He'll go for a look down the inside into Paddock Hill Bend. Hinz will yet give him the spot easily there. No need to fight that one, and Blythe is up a spot.
Hinz could have gone for a crossover. McMillan's going to go for a crossover, and and almost makes contact with the ERT car, but at the end of it all gets a double overtake as it's on behind as Stokes tries to take advantage as well, tries to go around the outside of Hinz. So in just 2 corners, Hinz facing the risk of losing 3 spots. So not what Thomas Hinz needs at all, as Hinz does in the end manage to defend, but McMillan with a great pass, but now gets a great bumper into the back from Riley Blythe, who lights up the rear tires as well, heading down Pilgrim Hill now. And this is the chance for Riley Blythe in the slipstream, but look at behind us. Hinz really having to go defensive. It's going to be duos. It's going to be 2 by 2 into the fastest corner on the circuit. Riley Blythe makes his way through with a great overtake, but McMillan once again just lurking in the background, thinking about a move into Westfield. Hinz was able to hold onto that spot against Carl Stokes, but McMillan just trying to find a way through, but all he's finding is lawn mowing at the moment, as Stokes once again looks up the inside of Hinz, but not able to make it happen. But Corey, if you were Thomas Hinz, how would you feel about that move, thinking that you could have lost 1 spot, but in the end, you almost ended up losing all 3?
Yeah, exactly. McMillan with that little contact there on Blythe, as was nearly sort of a massive lob, if you would like to call it. It lost Hinz 2 spots basically from that alteration, and now he's starting to try and hold off Carl Stokes behind. But actually, Blythe was laying on McMillan's bumper out of 2 corners, out of Dewards Hairpin, and then out of the Indy circuit area. So Blythe is a little bit angry what McMillan did the lap before at the hairpin, and now they come through again. No contact. They're still duos 2 by 2 single file, so you might see a move here this lap, maybe with Hinz and Kyle Stokes, but I don't know about McMillan and Blythe.
Nah, Blythe looks like he has pretty good pace at the moment in that car, so I'd expect him to start running away and perhaps launch a bit of an attack on Ross Rizzo, who's only 4 seconds up the road, but has dropped time considerably to the likes of Kazuki Umeshima ahead of him. So maybe a little bit of a mistake for the Trick Sim Sports driver at some point around this circuit, which is oh so easy to do, as a second place is still very much hotly contested, with Loxton lurking in the background with Coxhead also just there in the background, but Harvey and Umeshima not far behind as well. So the top 5, well the top 6, sorry, apart from Sam Blacklock, all pretty close to each other, just not close enough to make a move, but just one little mistake and you can lose all those positions. And we've already seen so many drivers make a little mistake, as you can see that Riley Blythe and Thomas McMillan once again still pretty close together, as they're still going to continue their fight. But I'm just noticing in the background that McKnight having to go defensive against Guy Leach, who only recently got past Michael Cracknell, might have a lot of pace in that car, and a big moment for Jay McKnight on the exit there, which does give Leach the better exit. You can see they're looking to the left and dives to the right, trying to get the overlap, and Paddock Hill Ben has to go late on the brakes, so McKnight's car wiggling there as he fights for grip, and gets a little bit of a tampered exit as well, heading towards Screw. As you can see Leach there looking to the inside, but has to back out of it as McKnight does carry just a little bit too much corner speed at the mid-apex, has to get out of the onto the brake a little bit longer. Leach with the wider entry now, trying to get the switch back with McKnight with a big oversteer moment as well, which gives the overlap to Leach, who should have a chance up the inside, and a big dive locks the inside front to boot as well, and that's going to compromise his exit now. So McKnight, who should have lost that spot pretty convincingly, might just have another chance to get it back there. You can see Leach having to go ultra defensive as McKnight just basically pushing him around this circuit. Now into Hawthorne, an incredibly quick corner, and Leach carries a lot of speed in, just enough to get himself away from the Evolution Racing Team driver. What this has done is allowed Michael Cracknell back in this fight as well. So for McKnight, he's got to calm down, not overdrive as much as he was in that battle just a few moments ago, because if he continues, well, Michael Cracknell could get a spot on his former teammate. Oh, Leach off into the gravel.
Yeah, Leach don't even want to be cooling those tyres down through the grass anytime soon. And oh, McKnight! Little moment out the corner there.
Yeah, he did. He had quite a bit of a moment there. So not the best there for McKnight. Just overdriving a little bit, which is not what to be doing. But you can see they're just closing up a little bit and a little bit. But another driver's closing up quite a little bit too much for comfort. As Brett Loxton, who's all over the back of the TTL car, looks to the inside into Surtees. Cannot make it happen though. But Loxton getting closer, and this entire pack is getting closer because Cox said he's in this fight as well now. And the gap to Blacklock sort of staying stagnant around the 2.5 to 3 second margin. It's just ebbing and flowing around that margin. But Brett Loxton is ebbing and flowing all the way to an overtake at the end of Hawthorne Corner, because he is going once again for the inside, pulls out down Pilgrim's Hill and gets the inside once again, door to door. This is too close between the two cars, almost contact, and there is contact, and they're both into the fence. The TTL car is into the fence, and Loxton with a pretty dodgy rejoin right in front of Kazuki Umashima. He's going to lose the spot there, as well as a big slide for Umashima, almost takes out Loxton. But over-aggression there for Loxton. He said he had to be aggressive, but in the end just went for a move that wasn't quite there, and did find himself in a bit of an incident. We're going to have a replay on screen right now. You can see that a much better exit, just closing in bit by bit on board there, and you can see just staring at the back of the TTL Esports car, pulls out to the right, and almost a bit of a wobble there. Now hard on the brakes there as they fire into the long right-hander, just getting closer and closer and closer. And there's actually a bit of a wiggle there for Loxton, a bit of a wiggle on the exit, which did send him into Sam Sutton, but it's a shame for those two drivers. How close was that to collecting Luke Harvey as well? So ultra close racing between those guys. But what that has now done is we have a new battle for second place in this race, and it's all up between Chris Coxhead and Luke Harvey. And if Harvey can get past, it would be a Trans-Tasman 1-2. And the last time I remember seeing a Trans-Tasman Racing 1-2 was last season at Phillip Island. Jake Burton and Sam Blacklock. And, well, when that happened, it was Sam Blacklock's championship year. And with Loxton making another mistake, could this be an omen, Corey?
Well, this could be really an omen to a very surprising finishing result at the moment. We've seen there before with Sam Sutton and Loxton going, well, collecting each other nearly and nearly ending Loxton's race, and, well, ending a really good result for Sutton. But now Loxton has to work even harder to get that second place back as Luke Harvey and Chris Coxhead go at it now for second place. And, well, I don't know, but I think Loxton was really lucky with that one, not getting a lot of damage from that contact.
No, absolutely, because of course that could have very easily damaged the front left upright of the car, and left him with a broken steering arm, as well as Luke Harvey just misses the apex a little bit, almost into the grass on the exit as well. So trying to line up a run on Chris Coxhead, not going to go well on lap number 19. He makes his way now onto lap number 20, so 13 laps left in this race as we're well over the halfway point now. But Harvey just not able to make a move happen at the moment. Of course, these two have been battling since lap number 1. They've been close all race long. It was for 4th and 5th previously, though. The stakes are a little bit higher. And do you think with that, incentive of it's not just for a 4th place now, it's for a 2nd place, do you think that's going to just incite Luke Harvey a little bit more to have a bit of an opportunistic dive? Well,
and also that as well, it'll be a TTR 1-2 if Luke Harvey can get by Coxhead. So as they come out, now basically going into the forest area of the circuit, as Coxhead got the run out of the corner from Harvey. So they've only got 13 laps left of this race, and Harvey's got 13 laps to try and get a move done. So, but you've still got the fact that tyres are wearing out quicker and quicker now as they go through the race.
Yep, absolutely. And just a quick report as well that Sam Sutton has decided to park the TTL Esports Falcon. So running second throughout most of this race, unfortunately won't be running second place at the end of lap 32. And I said that at the start of this broadcast, or towards the start of this broadcast, that you can be running up front all day long. If you're not there at the end of the race, you get nothing. You have to be there at the end of the race. And that's what Sam Blacklock has managed to do. Get himself to the front and stay there. And so far, touch wood, not make any mistakes. And that's why he's the championship leader. And Brett Loxton, unfortunately, just falling behind in this championship fight a little bit on a day where points are so critical. But to point out, it was only marginal. But Brett Loxton was quicker than the two cars in front of him. He was just slightly 7,000s quicker. 700s quicker than Chris Coxhead, and an entire 10th of a second quicker than Luke Harvey as Coxhead breaks onto the grass a little bit, heading towards Surtees corner now. And a bit of a moment for Harvey on the exit, maybe, just maybe saving him there. As we're just having a look now at Luke Harvey's, you can see there that Coxhead not able to meet the apex in the way he would have wanted. So his car, most cars in this pack at the moment, Corey, they're starting to turn into more of an oversteer balance, but it looks like Chris Coxhead's car is beginning to turn into a bit more of an understeery car as the run goes on.
Yeah, Loxton doesn't really want to be having an understeer car as any of us do, but, you know, it's sort of the throwback of trying to really push and get a second place, but, you know, he's now down in 4th. He'll be trying to push hard and harder, and, well, as the race goes on, Chai's lifespan get a little bit shorter and shorter, and, well, at the moment, he's struggling with nearly no tyres at all, and with a very fast Japanese man behind him.
Yep, well, Kazuki Umashima, always a quick driver, you have to be very, very careful of, and, well, is not a driver I'd want behind me, that is for sure, as Loxton there, just in front, with a bit of a wiggle once again, so his car definitely going into an oversteery balance at the moment, just fighting for grip, so different setups there between the Zuva Racing car and the KRF Motorsports car, so interesting to see how cars set up their way in, over a stint as well. It's just constantly changing, and the ebb and flow of the cars always adapting. Of course, we're going to get day-night transitions in the next few builds, potentially will be hashtag very soon, so that's going to change the ball game even more, with the drivers having to practice in even more conditions to make sure this series of their tires will last the entire run, keep the pressures in the correct operating windows. It's going to get harder and harder, so drivers will probably love the physics model at the moment, because of course it's not going to be as difficult, but in the future it is going to be much more realistic. The drivers are going to have to do a lot more homework to get the car around the circuit as quick as they once did. But at the moment, Chris Cox has definitely done his homework as he continues to perform some great lap times, gap out a little bit, which is what he needs to do. But at the moment, Michael Cracknell, he wants to get a bit more revenge on his old team, of course, left ERT, and right behind the driver of Jem Knight, who's one of the more recent signings, that has to be said, for ERT. And at the moment, not able to make any inroads is the driver of Cracknell, but Guy Leach hasn't escaped out front either, because of course Guy Leach was the driver that was on a bit of a charge mid-race, Corey, but all of a sudden he's not been able to break the margin.
No, it just shows, you know, what other people have been doing with their tyres. But it looks as if Leach saved them until, oh, Cracknell, big moment, misses the wall, stays on the circuit. Oh, beautiful. We're going to get a replay of that one.
Yep, replay up on screen right about now, as we can see they're heading towards right-hander, and we'll on board at the moment here as Cracknell through the left-hander and just gets a little bit on the curb, and he just lights it up completely on the curb. Big wiggle on the grass, and another secondary moment there, and lucky to avoid Andrew Zackerson, who goes flying past as well, and still no sponsor on the side of Andrew Zackerson, so a really good talent who definitely deserves to have a very good team around him as well. Once again, just running outside the top 10 this week, so another strong performance, just doing what he needs to do. And by the end of the season, I have no doubt we'll have a very strong championship position as well, as the laps wind down to just 10 to go now here at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. And well, it hasn't been the most action-packed in terms of overtakes, but the pressure, the strategy, and what you have to do to get the car around the circuit has been as intense as ever. As Luke Harvey, within half a second now of Chris Coxhead, but just not able to make anything happen right now. Just Coxhead was very strong in qualifying, almost had a shock pole position until it was stolen away from him by multiple other drivers, including the driver of Sam Sutton, who's now a retirement of this race, along with Zach Baker, who's Zach Baker's still running, but he's just 4 laps down now, so a big shame for him. And I've just noticed as well that David Miller has now stopped on the circuit as well, so I'll try and see what's happened to him. But he's actually just had a big moment heading onto the Grand Prix circuit. Big burst of wheel spin on lap 21 in the LeBlanc Redback Racing Team car. Just collected the fence on the outside. Unfortunately, that was enough to end his day. So for David Miller, not what he would have wanted, but surprisingly not as many Redback Racing Team cars as we normally see, because of course Harley Haber.
I'm sorry to bring in there, but McMillan's went wide to the hairpin and now has to slot in between his teammate and Stokes. Stokes is right up on the bumper of McMillan as they come out the corner. On board with Stokes. Have a little look up the inside. McMillan's going to defend. Hins is there. We really want to get away from this at the moment. They're little, maybe contact there. Stokes stays behind McMillan as they come to the Grand Prix section of the circuit.
Yep, absolutely. So Stokes won't be stoked about that one at all, but he's still trying to make a move. And let's not forget that McMillan has a damage to the left side of his car, so that's not going to be helping him in a straight line as well. So for Stokes, if he can just get a much better, well, a slightly better run, he will have the better velocity, terminal velocity at the end of the straight as well to carry it, but he might be able to do it in this next section if McMillan keeps running off into the grass, but does get his nose cut off once again heading into this fast section of corners. So for the driver McMillan, just not looking as comfortable as he normally does in the V8 Supercar, and a bit of a moment on the exit as well. So these curbs are looking pretty feisty out there, Corey, because every car that just dips the tire on even slightly has a huge slide.
Yeah, the curbs are not really big. They're not like curbs anywhere else where, you know, they got a lot of curb and you can put the car on it and be done with it. But around here, at some curbs you can, some curbs you can't. As Stokes, massive dive into paddock. Hill Ben locks it up. McMillan gets the cutback though. Wow, what a move! And Stokes gonna try it again. No, what a move there by Stokes. Sadly, he couldn't get it done, but wow, into paddock hill bend of all places.
Yep, that's a very risky place to try and make an overtake, but he definitely tried, and plenty of smoke as well from the poor front right tyre, which won't be doing him any favours after this race as he completely locked it up, fighting for all kinds of grip there, but it wasn't to be at the end of the race. So he's still trying, as I just saw a big moment once again as they're all fighting for grip at the moment, so the tyres are well and truly going off the edge now, and some drivers not doing as well as others, as Luke Harvey still trying to put pressure on Chris Coxhead, but all of a sudden Kazuki Umeshima has found himself a little bit closer to the back of Brett Loxton, so he's just been chipping away bit by bit, and has just been taking a 1/10.5 out of Brett Loxton each lap, so only small margins, but that's enough at the moment to get him there with just a handful of laps to go.
Yeah, there's only, what, 8 or 9, 7 or 8 laps to go, and they're all struggling, fighting for grip and wanting to gain places, so it really is that time where, you know, a driver can
lock up Harvey in front and runs a little bit deep into Paddock Hill Bend as he's really pushing now to get onto the back of Chris Coxhead.
He was really pushing then. Actually, Loxton behind was pushing so much through Paddock Hill and taking the curb on the inside and then getting a bit into the gravel on the outside on the exit as well, but Harvey at the moment staying sort of line astern with Coxhead, so he doesn't mind where he is at the moment, but a TTR 1-2 wouldn't be too bad tonight at all.
No, not at all. Would definitely be a lot of celebrations at the TTR camp because, of course, Blacklock would extend his championship lead with Loxton only down in P number 4 at the moment, so not what he needed. But 1-2 would definitely top things off as well, as Harvey just continued to put pressure and looks a lot stronger in the high-speed sections of the circuit and deep there into the corner, but it's still on in the mid-pack at the moment, as Andrew Zackerson does just get past there by the driver Michael Cracknell, so Cracknell finally cracking on with a job at hand and makes another move happen. So, of course, he had that big moment just a few laps ago and lost that spot to Zackerson, but manages to find his way back past. But for Cracknell running a little bit deep through the fast right-hander there, and you can see almost lost that position once more to Zackerson. But all of a sudden, Luke Harvey with big pressure going around the outside, and this is not the place you want to do, but you can get a better traction, which he does, just haunting the back of the Zuva racing car side by side down the front straight as we go to just 6 laps to go, and it was committed last time. How committed will it be on the outside? Tries to go for the over-under, and Coxhead trying to block it off, but he's not able to do it as the Trans-Tasman racing driver down to the inside at Druids, but locks the rear brakes. He's locked the rear brakes and has made contact, and Loxton could potentially get through.
Oh,
this is a big slide from Harvey.
Wide.
3 wide into Surtees. You do not want to be 3 wide, and Loxton once again forced onto the grass, so he's all of a sudden lost a heap of time, and I can't even see him on track at the moment. He might have been disqualified from this race, so Brett Loxton's championship goes from bad to worse as Luke Harvey continues to apply pressure, but championship drama as Sam Blacklock is on course to potentially win the highest strength of field race of the season, and Loxton will not be finishing this race potentially, so a big drama there in terms of the championship. But there's a lot happening in the back end of this field as well, as Mario Vlasic just lost a spot to Greg Sharp as well. And we can now confirm that it was indeed a moment there for Brett Loxton as he got disqualified. So that's a real shame. We can now confirm that. But Luke Harvey still applying pressure at the back of Coxhead into the back end of the circuit now. You can see Coxhead using so much of the apex corner, just trying to cut every meter of this circuit to make the race end a little bit quicker. But he still has 5 very long laps of Brands Hatch to hold on from a very quick charging Luke Harvey, who's made a move once. You know he's going to be willing to try it once more. And, well, there's no pressure from behind from Brett Loxton now. Kazuki Umeshima a little bit too far back, but look how much stronger he is in the turn number 1. And Chris Coxhead really firing it off the inside curb as well. So that's what's hurting him mid-corner, as Luke Harvey just dancing on the rear brake once again. So Luke Harvey not comfortable with the brakes of the car, but still very much willing to throw it in there anyway.
Exactly. I was about to say before that Kasumi Umeshima behind was actually catching up, but now they're sort of starting to get away from him. But, you know, he's still there, that Radicals Online 6 Sideways car. He's still there trying to possibly get a third place if Harvey and or Cox have a little bit of a moment here with the next 5 laps.
Yeah, well, it was 9/10 of a second quicker for Kazuki Umeshima last time around, but let's not forget as well that Luke Harvey was involved in a rather large scrap, it has to be said, with Chris Coxhead, which would have slowed them up a little bit. But once again, just going into Westfield now, and still not the supermarket, but still very much searching or to purchase a second place in this race at the moment, as Coxhead struggling to make the car work in the corners now, just pushing wide a little bit, which gives Luke Harvey these opportunities. Goes for an over-under, but will only force him to the outside once again, because Chris Coxhead is going to park it on the inside. Excuse me, he is not going to park it to the inside at all, because Luke Harvey is going to throw it down the inside of the final corner and goes for the move. There's going to be contact, almost potentially knocking each other's door mirrors off as they fight down the start-finish straight. It was with 5 laps to go last time around. It's now with just 4 laps to go here at round number 8 of the Monday Night Official Series Championship, and it's a Trans-Tasman Racing 1 and 2 as Coxhead dances on the exit, just searching for grip, and very lucky to hold onto the car as he's demoted to P number 3, but gives a bumper to the back of Luke Harvey anyway. So they're going to continue to scrap on, continue to fight, and all of a sudden Luke Harvey, just with a little technical glitch as well, just to distract the driver Chris Coxhead a little bit more, but they cannot get carried away in this fight, because look who is coming. It's the Japanese samurai once again, Kazuki Umeshima, in the Radicals Online car, and he is going to take any opportunity that comes his way with just 3.5 laps to go, as Coxhead just gets closer and closer, heading towards Hawthorn, but not able to make it happen, as this is getting closer and closer, Corey.
Exactly, he wants to try and get by Harvey, but Harvey doesn't want to hold, doesn't want to hold him up anymore, because Umashima's right behind. Umashima's looking for any opportunity he can to pounce and do it hard as they come through the second last corner now. Coxhead still staying behind Harvey, not really gaining much on him either. Harvey, a little bit of moment on the curb there on the exit. As they come into the last corner now, you see Umeshima in the background, but wow, this is going to be a nail-biting next 3 laps here for this second position at the moment.
Yeah, it absolutely will, and you can see that the driver of Chris Coxhead just looking for alternate lines to try and make something happen at the moment, but it's just not working as he fires in a paddock hill bend once again, both launching off the inside curb, which is a little bit weird. Normally you'd want all 4 tires on the deck through there with the elevation change just to get a little bit more grip, but at the moment they're not worried about grip, they're just worried about track position. That is all that matters to them at the moment, and Luke Harvey has the track position, but like in a game of capture the flag, Chris Coxhead is doing whatever he can to take it away with just 2.7 laps to go, to be exact, because of course we work in fine margins, and 2.7 laps to go, and it's the number 7 car that is currently holding onto second place at the moment, but for how much longer? Because Chris Coxhead with a great run heading towards Hawthorn right now, but it's a little bit too far back, but he's going to potentially commit to it anyway. But that was a bit of a move that didn't quite have to happen, because he wasn't far up enough to really make an attack there, and all he really did was put himself on a much tighter line, which has now allowed Luke Harvey to pull away maybe 3-4 tenths of a second.
Yeah, exactly. He does not want Mr. Luke Harvey to pull away anymore. He wants to get by him as we come around now to, with about 2.2 laps to go of this race. Luke Harvey is now starting to streak out a little bit, maybe, as Coxhead, all 3 of them come around the corner. They got a nice even margin between all 3 of them. So here we go, 2 laps to go. Coxhead would want a screw up from Harvey to happen to get a chance at that P2 once again, but Umeshima wants those 2 to collide as bad as he wants. Oh, Coxhead's so wide through the first corner there onto the gravel.
Yep, onto the gravel. Well, this is not rallycross at this point, so for Trans-Tasman Racing and the Zuba Race, well, this is not what they need. They need to stick it to the tarmac and make a little bit more ground. At the moment, as you can see there, Kyle Stokes involved in a little bit of a scrap at the moment as well. He's trying to find his way past Thomas Miller, and this scrap has been going on since lap number 1 as well. And this is one to keep an eye on as well as we get to the final couple of laps now. It's down to just 1.5 laps to go for our race leader in Sam Blackwell. He hasn't had much screen time today, done exactly what he has to do to protect his championship lead. And with Brett Loxton having a bit of a nightmare tonight, this is all working out pretty well for the Trans-Tasman Racing Kiwi, It currently stands at a TTR 1-2, but for how much longer, as Chris Coxhead gets a big boot of wheel spin as well, and Umashima has fallen away just a little bit now. Quite a big margin, actually, it has to be said. So for Chris Coxhead, a little bit more safety if he wants to go for an ambitious lunge into Druids, which I would argue is probably his very best chance at a move on this final lap. But he has to get the run through here. Absolutely perfect. He has to make the run work now, because if he doesn't, he's going to be too far back, and the final section of circuit does not quite provide the opportunities that you need. As he makes the way onto lap 32. This is the money lap. This is where the points will be paid at the end. You can see there Luke Harvey doing what he needs to, makes the apex perfectly, and Coxhead goes for a bit more rallycross and goes late on the brakes anyway. Druid's so late on the brakes and pulls it up anyway, despite the loss of grip from running through the gravel at Paddock Hill Bend, but not close enough. He still needs another 0.3 of a second at least to even think of mounting an attack. And his best moment now, if he can't make this happen to Hawthorne Bend now, it's going to have happen into the Clark curve on the very final corner. But you can see they're just trying to set up the run with a slightly wider exit. Just not happening at the moment for the Zuva racing car. So he's going to continue to push, as is Carl Stokes, who he is still applying a lot of pressure to the back of McMillan, and they're a little bit closer, but McMillan gets the better exit just slightly, as Stokes doesn't quite have the grip that he needs. So for Carl Stokes, it's just not happening, as well as the two ASM cars just ahead of him are beginning to streak away just ever so slightly. And Luke Harvey does look like he will be able to hold on, because Coxhead not making the ground that he needs. So this is all going a little bit wrong for him, but it's not going wrong for Trans-Tasman Racing, because their driver, their championship leader, is going to drift his way through the final corner with a little bit of style points as well, because the number 2 car, he won't be finishing in number 2 even slightly. It's another race win in the Monday Night Official Series for Sam Blacklock, and in second place, it's going to be a Trans-Tasman Racing 1-2, but only just because Chris Cox said, make sure it's a little bit closer than perhaps Luke Harvey would have liked. Kazuki Umashima in P number 4, and look at this between Carl Stokes and McMillan. It's bumper to bumper, and Stokes going to get this on the final corner. A fantastic move there in the end, and he gets it by just under 1/10 of a second. We're going to need more than one replay of that, Fonzie, because that was a spectacular final lap of the race in which Carl Stokes and McMillan were all over it as well. And you can see the last few cars now coming across the line, and in the end we would have 16 cars who would finish on the lead lap, which is pretty damn awesome as well, because there was a little bit of carnage at the start of this race, but in the end it was action all the way down to the final corner. And well, the first half probably didn't have the overtakes we were perhaps expecting, but the second half most certainly delivered, and the action and the pecking order was changed quite dramatically as well, which is what we love to see, as a McMillan going to do burnouts as well. I'm not sure why, because he did lose that spot on the final lap, but still another top 10 finish for him as well. Our race results up on screen right about now, and Sam Blacklock will take the race win after 46 minutes racing here at the Brantach Circuit Grand Prix layout, ahead of his teammate Luke Harvey. A great result there for the TTR cars. Chris Coxhead was in fantastic form all throughout this race, and will come home in position number 3 on the podium, where he started as well. And Kazuki Umashima makes his way up one spot to position number 4. Ross Rizzo from 8th on the grid saw a great drive through in the end, through the top 5 finish for the Trick Sim Sports driver, with Riley Blythe, Thomas Hins, Cole Stokes, Thomas McMillan, and Guy Leach, your top 10.
And then rounding through the rest of the field, Jamie McKnight finishes P11, Michael Cracknell finishes P number 12, Andrew Zackerson with an amazing drive to finish P13, P14 goes to Greg Sharp, P15 Mario Velachis, and P number 16, the last car to finish, I believe, and also on the lead lap, Mitchell McLeod with your DNFs, Zach Baker, David Miller. Sadly, Brett Loxton giving now Sam Blacklock an amazing lead in the championship. Then Sam Sutton after that. Contact between him and Loxton, what was it, around the first, near the first half of the race, or the end of the first half. And then Brian Borg and Andrew Welter will round off your 22 cars here tonight.
Yep, 22 cars, and it was all a lot of action in the end. And well, this being round number 8, we'll get an even better idea of the championship picture heading into the next 4 weeks. Because, of course, the next 4 weeks, it's all about drop rounds and trying to improve it. And, of course, well, Brett Loxton, tonight wasn't his best night, of course, losing a lot of points to Sam Blacklock. But with the drop round format, he will be able to claw that back just little bit by little bit. and that is exactly what he needs to be doing. But he will have another chance for redemption this Friday because, of course, we have the Sebring 150 for the LeBlanc Australian Online Supercar Series, which should be pretty exciting racing as it so often is. But just before that as well, we do have on Tuesday night the Down Under Graphics 410 Grand Slam, where you'll have the 410 sprint cars going around for some pretty damn cool racing as well. It's always a fantastic show with the sprint cars, and we'll have a pretty big showdown happening at Mount Panorama on the 7th of the 11th. Of course, that's Wednesday night, where the Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australia, the GT3s, will be taking to the mountain for, of course, the championship showdown between Luis Paulo Gallon and the rest of the crew, as well as they're all scrapping it out at the moment. Let's not forget as well, this will be the final race for that series in GT3 cars, because just confirmed earlier last night was, of course, the move to GTE. So, Corey, GTE, it's going to be a big change for that series, but I'm sure that's one you're probably looking forward to.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it a lot. GT3 wasn't really my strong point, but now bringing in the GTE cars, and it's going to be next season Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australasia in GTEs. It'll be the best season you'll ever see of GT racing in Australia, bar none. And I'm saying that right now. Put that on the books.
Yep, absolutely put that on the books. But speaking of books, we're going to close this book and close this chapter of the Monday night's Supercars Official Series Championship. Round number 8 is done, but there are still 4 rounds to go where the championship picture could change still and once again, as it has done so many times this season. On behalf of Corey, who was so thankful for joining me in the comments booth today, and of course, Scott Fountain for broadcasting, as he always does a fantastic job. Thank you so much for watching SimSpeed TV's coverage of the Monday Night Supercar Series on the iRacing Esports Network, and we will see you next time for round number 9.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.